3 miles as the crow flies. Okay, a couple stops along the way. This one is called the big tree technique. Pay attention to your surroundings. Right underneath this tree. Right now that we've gone ahead and made it to our objective, do a quick gear dump. Hey team, what I have for you today, some stealth navigation. Hang on tight. Alright team, welcome back to the channel, man. As always, I'm stoked to see us. We're going to jump right into this video. We're going to go over quite a few techniques and principles that you can put in your kit bag the next time you move out. We're going to be talking about route planning, noise and light discipline, some basic counter tracking techniques and principles. Riggs and I set out a little bit ago to come out here. I'm in a place where we got this truck secured, and what we're going to do is we're going to sit down, we're going to plan our route in order to get from where we're at to where we're trying to go. And again, along the way, we'll go over some different land navigation principles and things and some misconceptions and myths out there. So hopefully you can continue to master your craft. Now, what we're talking about here is essentially the fundamentals for reconnaissance operations, or recce operations, if you will. And what we're going to do is we're going to break this down in a few different phases. We're going to be moving out and basically conducting a reconnaissance for a route. Now, it's not a route reconnaissance, not a zone reconnaissance, it's not an area reconnaissance. It's taking these principles and techniques in order to find a way to get from where we are to our objective without being seen. And that leads us to the first set of principles that we need to talk about, and that's noise and light discipline. Right? So when we think about noise and light discipline, we need to think about what we're wearing, the time of day that we're operating, what the weather and environmental considerations are. Right now it's about 42 degrees. In the last week we've had about 3 inches of rain, so there's a lot of standing water out here. But it also means that as I'm moving, I'm not going to be breaking so many branches and twigs as it will, so that's going to help out with some of that noise discipline. I also want to make sure, you know, before we step out and start moving, I'm checking my gear and making sure that everything is secured down nice and tight, that I'm not making a lot of noise as we're moving. I want to do some other basic things like making sure that I have no sheen or shine on me. Now, I'm not going to be wearing my makeup today, and that's because I'm in a completely permissive environment, right? And so should I come across anybody as we're moving through, it's just going to look like me and Riggs are taking a walk, right? From where we're at to where we're trying to go is about 3 miles as the crow flies. But you never want to move in a straight line, right? And as you can see looking out, we do have this natural line of vegetation, these trees that we have, that's going to kind of help give me a buffer to my left and to my right as we're moving up to the northwest. We're going to use this in order to help conceal some movement and keep us moving in the right direction. So as we're planning our route, we want to make sure that we're looking at the map and we understand what the major and minor terrain features are that we're going to be encountering. In this case, I don't have a lot because I would normally, again, not want to move in a straight line, but I would want to move maybe from hill to hill, from major terrain feature to major terrain feature in order to help break up some of these gaps. All right, so I'm not, in this case, going to be utilizing so much some compass work, but using this vegetation to help keep me moving in a northwesterly path. Take a couple stops along the way, and every time that we do, we're going to go ahead and break down a few things. I'm going to be wearing my gloves. There is a lot of blackberry out here, so there's a lot of thorns. There is some elk, might see some deer, and there is quite a few black bear out here, but I doubt we're going to encounter any. Right, so a couple techniques and principles that we're using is handrail, right? So a handrail is when we have a linear area. It could be a road, it could be a transmission line, it could be railroad tracks. And we use that as a guide to keep us moving in the right direction. In this case, I'm using the tree line as a natural handrail. I have one off to my left or my west, and I have one off to my east. And it's going to help keep me pushing towards the northwest, if you will. Now, when it comes to navigation, most people are used to using a pace count if you're in the military. My pace count is 70 paces for every 100 meters. But in this case, because I'm moving with rigs, because I'm moving a little bit slower, my pace count is completely whack. And so we stepped off at about 9:30. It's 10:20 right now. And so my pace count is whack. I can't trust or rely on it. So I have to use some benchmarks, if you will, some backstops along the way. Normally a backstop is going to be only at the end, but in this case I have a few other major features, some roads and some clearings that I can use along the way to help ensure that I know where I'm at. So these are paramount, that you do know what your pace count is, but at the same time you can't use that as the deciding factor to understand where you're at, because in many cases your pace count is going to change drastically depending on the load that you're carrying, how far you've been moving, and other variables that we have out there. Again, we talked about using major terrain features along the way to help us understand and to break down that route that we're moving. Again, we never want to move in a straight line, because you're gonna tell somebody where you're going by the manner in which you are moving, if that makes sense. So in this case, we're kind of hooking off to the northwest. We're going to move through, continue to move through all the tree line and the vegetation, and then cut back into our objective in a dogleg style, if you will. If I had some other terrain features, I would want to take that into consideration. And of course, I want to use ACOCA, which is an acronym for understanding our major terrain features, and that's our observation, concealment, key terrain, avenues of approach, and our obstacles along the way. Those obstacles could be, again, some roads, major terrain features where I may have anticipated some folks moving in the past. Some avenues of approach along the same thing. What is the most likely avenues of approach? And that's why we're using the route that we're using. Right, and so that's the other key principle for this stop right here, is you have two basic routes. If you're moving through any type of E&E scenario, or whether you're doing some stealth movement or recce or reconnaissance type operations, you can use a most likely avenue of approach, and this can be key in order to help increase your speed. Maybe it's to gain some distance from that tracking party, and in order to leave less sign or spoor along the way. Now, the bad side of that is it's going to allow that tracking party to gain ground on you as well, and you obviously have no cover or concealment along the way because you're out in the open. You can also use a least likely route, a less traveled route. Maybe it's a game trail like we've been on here for a few minutes. Maybe it's moving through the woods like we are right now, and that has some advantages and disadvantages as well. It's going to slow you down along the way, but it is also going to help cover and conceal you from enemy observation, and that's why we're doing this right here. I have a starting point and I have an objective for where we're trying to go, and I don't want to be seen along the way. I'm basically doing this now as a rehearsal for future movement, and so we're going to use this terrain and this vegetation to help conceal our movement along the way. Let's pick up and go at it from here. So came across some pretty good sign, right? So depending on the scenario that you're in, finding sign of game is critical, right? Especially if you need that food to maintain your nutritional value in order to keep moving, right? Riggs is stepping all over it, which is actually something good too, because it does help show that this is fairly fresh, right? Because as he's imprinting into it, it's mushing down pretty good. So the other really good thing about this sign is that I can also use it to help reduce my signature, if you will, of the scent that I'm leaving. So even though we're not on a main road, what we've been traveling on right now is a much more used road, and I found some debris, some dude leaving his trash out here. And it's important to remember that litter discipline is extremely critical, right? We think a lot about noise discipline and light discipline, but we don't often talk about litter discipline, and things like this is going to help leave some breadcrumbs, if you will, for a good tracker to be able to find you. So we're still on a less used and traveled route, if you will, but it obviously has had more people than animals, and so we're going to move off and take a short break. So we did find what obviously has been used as a patrol base in the past. Obviously a lot more traffic has been in here, and they've left a lot more sign out here, and it's just obvious that dudes have been in this particular spot. So we're going to take this opportunity to go ahead and pause here for a minute. We do want to move on pretty quickly. Look at our map and try to determine a little bit closer on the map where we're at, so that we can determine what our next step is going to be. It's now 11:22. We have moved maybe halfway there. Looks like it's going to be a solid 2.5 to 3 clicks. Now bear that in mind, right? An hour and a half to move only basically a mile. Moving pretty slowly, because along the way we stop, we look, we listen, we smell, we take some notes. We pay attention to what's around us, with what we see and what we hear, what kind of resources may be out, should we have to come and move this way again, especially if the environment is a lot less permissive than what it is right now. So we're getting ready to come across a little bit of an open area, and then we'll be able to hit some woods again, and then we'll be a little bit closer to our objective. Right, so Riggs thought this was a good time and place to go ahead and stop and talk about some counter-tracking techniques and principles we can put in our kit bag. I got an eagle flying overhead, a couple of them. So this one is called the big tree technique, and you need some sort of a big tree. That's why it's called the big tree, that we want to move to and beyond, leave some sign, and then work our way back to that big tree and then change direction. In this case, we're also going to use it in conjunction with these two trees here that are laying down, because that's going to help me further hide the sign and the track that I'm leaving, as we were moving in a straight direction here. We're going to come back and then move off perpendicular. That's going to hopefully help throw off any tracking party. Again, team, don't get it mistaken, right? A good tracker is going to find the techniques and principles that you're using, but what you're trying to do is help gain time and distance between you and that tracking party. Right, and so I know I'm getting a little bit closer to that linear danger area, and I have to move a little bit slower with a little bit more intention as we come across this thing. I want to move from position to position. Again, it's a permissive environment, so I don't need to worry about low crawling or high crawling. But I do want to pay a little bit closer attention to detail when it comes to things that I see, I smell. So I want to stop, I want to look, I want to listen. I want to rely on my battle buddy to see what he's picking up on, if anything. Once I'm positive that the area is secure, we're going to go ahead and pick up and step out. So here we are at our linear danger area. It's an open danger area in conjunction. I have a road and I have an open area that I can't get around no matter which way I move it, whether further to the west or further to the east. You also need to pay attention to your surroundings. Right underneath this tree is a really dry spot that if I needed to start a fire, this would be some pretty good tinder right here. So we're going to halt a little bit longer than normal. We're going to conduct some sills. We're going to annotate. Once I'm fairly positive that I'm secure enough to be able to continue, we're going to pick up and we're going to move on. Right, and then once you get over to the far side, you need to conduct a quick and short security halt. Make sure you didn't lose anything, and then get the hell out of Dodge. You can go and take a longer pause here. Rig's hogging the camera. Go ahead and refit and refuel a little bit. Got one more danger area to cross, and then we'll get to our objective here pretty soon. And at the objective, we'll do a little bit of a kit lay down and see everything. A little bit of Ranger pudding. There's all kinds of ways to make this. And I'm not going to tell you that my way is the right or the only way, but it is going to be a good way. And so what I have in my bag, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut open one of these bags here, make my delicious meal in. Crackers, French vanilla cappuccino instant powder, pour in, some chunky peanut butter, a little bit of creamer, and last but not least is the instant coffee. Spoon, and it looks like that's about it. Man, I don't care who you are, that's just dadgum good. So you got to take care of your calorie intake, as well as make sure that you stay hydrated. The longer you're out, the more that you need. So you just need to be able to plan as you're moving. So again, kind of doing this as a reconnaissance en route. In case I need to use this area in the future, I will have a good route to make it through this particular stretch of land, if you will. I think there's all sorts of applications, whether you're talking about moving through a state forest, a national forest or park, a state park, even in an urban environment, the same principles are going to apply. But what's most important, I think, is that you need to get out and you need to rehearse before you need to execute. Rehearsals are everything, man. Alright, we got everything? And from here, we just need to move in a northerly direction. We're going to come across that hardball road, and then we're just going to have to figure out where we're at in relationship to that road. And that road is going to serve as a backstop. Right now I'm about 100 yards or so from the road. I can see it out in front of us, and I can hear some traffic off to the west. And I know that to my west is an access road, and off to the east is an access road. I'm kind of sandwiched in between here, but I don't know where I am exactly. So what this hardball road is essentially is a hard stop. It's a backstop, if you will. But I don't know where I am in relationship to it. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut to the east and find this access road, and then go ahead and then I will know exactly where I'm at. I can plot that location, and I can continue to move on from there. Got the road right in front of us. I have a little access road off to my right. I can plot exactly where we're at and continue to move on across this danger area, set up a little objective rally point, and then move in to our objective. All right, now that we've gone ahead and made it to our objective, we'll do a quick gear dump, go over a couple items that we've got, and we'll go ahead and do a quick review and call it a wrap. Right, and as far as gear, we didn't bring too much. Did have a stripped MRE, lensatic compass, my land nav kit with map, my gloves, water bottle, E&E kit, first aid kit, fire kit. I got a repair kit inside the pack, and then my sniper veil, and that's pretty much it. That's all that we brought. Right, so just nice and light in order to be able to work through this area and try to document some of the things that we've seen along the way, the routes that we wanted to take, any obstacles that may have been out there, understand the terrain and the vegetation that we had that we were working with in order to make sure that should I have to use this route again in the future, I already know what to expect and I can plan accordingly. Hey, if you like the content of this video, make sure you like it, subscribe to the channel, click that notification bell. That way we can continue to keep this conversation rolling, right? Don't forget to leave some comments down below, man. I appreciate all you guys. Until then, you stay out there, you keep grinding, and you stay stoked.